What first comes to mind when you think of first cars? Chances are it's something like a Ford Fiesta, a Vauxhall Corsa, a Mini Cooper or a VW Polo. That is in fact the exact order of the most popular first cars according to Compare the Market. The thing is, I think we're a lot better off going more left field, and that's why in this video I'm going to talk you through my top 3 best left field choices when buying a first car. Before diving straight into it, it's worth asking the question of why going left field is, in my opinion, a much better idea. Something like a Ford Fiesta or VW Polo is involved in so many accidents with young drivers, it causes the risk profile for such drivers on these cars to increase massively. This means despite having a low insurance group and a dinky 1-litre engine, you'll be paying a lot more than someone else with a more powerful left field car for insurance. That's the exact reason I bought myself a 1.6-litre Mazda 3, which cost £1,450 for the first year of insurance. Mark 5 VW Polos and Mark 6 Ford Fiestas are also very expensive to buy outright, due to being consistently in strong demand. I ran a quote on a Z-Tech spec Ford Fiesta with the 1-litre EcoBoost engine, and the cheapest quote I got was £1,650. The insurance group might only be 11E, but it still costs a lot more than it should to insure. Auto Trader says that at £3,100, with 96,000 miles on the clock, this is a good price for such a car, but I would argue otherwise, especially since it has the notoriously unreliable EcoBoost wet belt engine. So, what's my first choice of left field car? Well, I've gone with the Nissan Almera. This generation of Almera ran from the year 2000 all the way to 2007, and it could be bought as a 5-door hatch, a 3-door hatch, a saloon or an MPV. For first time buyers, I recommend the 3-door hatch as it looks a lot cooler. The standard specifications from base spec E to S to SE to SVE and top spec SXE. If you can find a top spec model, that's what I would recommend. This specification in SXE adds a 7-inch full colour display, fully automated air conditioning, DVD navigation, a rear roof spoiler, 16-inch alloy wheels and a chrome exhaust. Engine choices are a 1.5, 1.8 and 2-litre petrol, as well as a 2.2-litre diesel. I would recommend one of the larger petrol engines, with the 1.8 potentially being the sweet spot, as the 1.5 is far too underpowered, with 89 brake horsepower and 0 to 60 in 13.8 seconds. The 1.8 brings us up to 114 brake horsepower and 10.8 seconds, which is a lot more respectable. According to reviews by the RAC, the Almera has a quality feel on the inside and has plenty of headroom for 3 across the comfortable back seat. At 355 litres, the boot is also 25 litres more than a Golf of the same era. The body of the Almera is 30% stiffer than the outgoing model, and the RAC comment that the handling is superb with plenty of grip and good feedback from the chassis. I found a really nice example with a 1.8-litre engine as a 3-door in top spec trim for £2,500. This is technically very dear for an old Almera, but I still think it's a price worth paying for full service history with 2 owners, 46,000 miles and in the perfect spec of course. I ran an insurance quote on this example as me as a 17-year-old driver with no claims bonus, and it came back as a smidge under £2,000 from Admiral. I reckon you could get this down to around £1,700 though with a provider like Hastings Direct. I couldn't do a video on left field cars without choosing something French, which is why my second choice of car is the Renault Twingo, specifically the 3rd generation car which ran from 2014 to 2024, but ended production for the UK market in 2019. This generation of Twingo is particularly unusual because it shares its platform with the Smart 4, meaning the engine is actually in the rear at a 49-degree angle and it drives the rear wheels. Renault did this because it said it would improve passenger space, and to their credit, they're correct. The Twingo might only be 3.595 metres long, which is less than a VW Up, and 479mm less than a VW Polo, but it's still practical for 4 adult passengers. The only downside to the rear engine configuration is that the boot is quite a bit smaller than its rivals. On the plus side, the rear seats do fold completely flat, and when you consider this car as a 2-seater instead of a 4-seater, the 980-litre capacity starts to appear very impressive by class standards. The 1-litre engine is pretty slow, with 0 to 60 in 14.5 seconds, and it's hardly what you'd call a refined driving experience. This shouldn't be much of an issue though if you're driving around the city or doing short commutes to school and back. and you'll appreciate the fact that the car's tight turning circle and surprisingly little body lean exists. I would recommend looking for a mid to high spec car, such as the iconic model I found here, as that adds alloy wheels and it does lift the appearance of the entire car. This 2016 Twingo I found has 64,000 miles and costs £3,500. I ran an insurance quote and I got quoted £1,000 from Admiral, which is very cheap. If the last two cars weren't quite fast enough for you, my next option should be more up your street. The issue is, if you try to get insured on a Fiesta ST or a Renault Clio Sport, you're going to be hit with some extortionate insurance quotes. That's why you need to be slightly more creative and potentially sacrifice big rear wings and nice alloy wheels. This Skoda Octavia Elegance might look like something your grandparents might drive, but under the bonnet is a 1.8 litre turbocharged engine pushing 158 horsepower. This means 0 to 60 takes a mere 7.8 seconds. For perspective, that's 0.1 seconds faster than an Abarth 595. The Octavia is a lot more practical than the Abarth as well, with a 560 litre boot, which trumps that of a Ford Mondeo from the same era. The Octavia is also very relaxing to drive, has a well-made, albeit quite drab-looking interior, and shouldn't cost you that much to run, with 40 mpg, great reliability, and tax at only £275 a year. It's worth considering that the fastback shape of the Octavia might make it a little bit more difficult to learn to drive in though. I found a 2009 example on Auto Trader with 94,000 miles for just £1,500. Although this Octavia is in insurance group 22E, I got a quote of £1,825, which once again I expect you could reduce by using providers like Hastings Direct. These are my top 3 choices for left field cars though. Let me know in the comments if you think I missed any out, and see you in the next video.